After watching the new full Dawntrail trailer for Final Fantasy XIV a few times, I can't help but feel that we either will get an extended trailer before the launch, or that a law was cut to not reveal too much information. Now, before I continue why I feel that way and show you specific scenes, I want to warn you. I will show you scenes from this newest trailer, as well as some of the previous expansion trailers. Every time you will then watch these older trailers, you will be reminded that I showed you those errors and you won't be able to unsee them. Therefore, as counterintuitive as it may sound, if you don't want to know about the older flaws and errors, I will warn you again when I start to show them, so that you can stop watching the video at that point, or that you can skip to the end. I will also put on some timestamps so that you know when and where stuff will happen. So then, let's go into the scenes that bother me personally, and I will go in more or less a chronological order in the trailer. Right at the beginning on the ship, the Warrior of Light taps with his foot on the boat to a beat. But it's not quite the beat of the music. It's almost, but not 100%. This could mean that we will get a better fitting version later, or they just didn't know what the tempo of the music would be and made an approximation that almost fits. We don't know at that point. But the fact that they specifically show the foot tapping makes me wonder if there is more to it. Then the trailer continues and we go on a hunt with Estinian and bring back that big monster that he slew. We then see Estinian surrounded by Amalja kids. Then a quick, let me check the camera movement guide. Pan into a a truck to the right, followed by a boom upwards. Now that truck movement to the right doesn't fit there at all. It starts without a context and ends without a context as well, as we continue straight up. This exact scene is also present in the previous teaser and the extended teaser. In the teaser it's used to cut from Estinian to Thancred, and in the extended teaser to cut from Graha to Thancred. But again, no real connection of the scenes. This makes me think that this truck movement is either from a different place in the real full trailer, or they simply needed something to fill up the time for the music to catch up. However, it seems slightly out of place, which also could be that they just ran out of time and had to improvise. Next, I have a bit of a personal problem, that with each trailer that we get, we cut back to the fight between the Warrior of Light and Gulal Chacha once more. In the teaser we saw the fight once, in the extended teaser 2 times, and in the final trailer we get back to the fight 3 times. It feels too wide and erratic for me, especially the second cut from the blade of the fishmonger Amalja to Gulal Chacha's blade feels forced, and that scene is so incredibly short that it's almost unjustified to be there. And just to continue where we are, we then transition to Ishtola and her book, but suddenly in the full trailer, the page she turns away from is almost non-visible. In the previous teasers we had a nice view of said page, same with the new page she turns to. It's now zoomed in and slightly blurry. Why they go to the length of showing these 2 or 3 pages in the previous teaser and now removing the information in the full trailer, I don't know, and it just seems slightly weird. And as the scene continues, I can keep going to my next small issue that I have, and it's with the Nutkin. The path the Nutkin takes does not quite line up from scene to scene before and after the cut. It was on the ground before on some planks, and suddenly it's on the handrail. Yes, Nutkins might be quick, and this transition works in movement, but it just doesn't feel consistent. Previous trailers of previous expansions, they are consistent throughout. But here we have a lot of scenes that seem to be floating in their own time capsule, out of place, and it makes me believe that there is more in between that we have not seen yet. Next I want to go back a few seconds to Alisae's appearance. When you first see her, she gets a custard apple and then walks down the street. The scene changes to the already mentioned fishmonger, back to Alisae, who looks fascinated, and finally back to the Amalja. I say these two scenes do not belong to each other. They are separate things and were put together to make it seem like they are one. I mean, take a look at left side when we first see the fishmonger scene. There's a probably dark-skinned Lalafell Gleaner clearly intended to draw our focus in and act as a decoy for Alisae. Who is that person? I say we will see it in an extended version of the trailer, or again, that person was cut to not reveal too much. And the next thing is just a personal note from me before we head over to the other side of the town. If we get an extended trailer, I would love to see a bit more of Urianger. He comes very short in this trailer. So we get to see the fight for a third time before we move to the next part, with a new melody and a new music style. And it's a big change in style too. At first it catches you off guard, here as well as when it eventually resolves and goes back to the previous happy song. When I heard it the first time, it felt out of place. After hearing so many times for this video, I think it works, but there is still a hint of a missing connection in there somewhere. At least that's what I think. Then after the scene with Graha and Kral, we travel to a few places that we don't get to see yet. The northern part of the continent as well as what's down in this cleft. It works in the context of the whole video, but I can't help but feel that they wanted to originally show us more. And to end up this kind of analysis, there are more people on the boat that we don't know yet. Who is at the helm and who is this at the rear? There might be just people that work for the shipping company, but who knows if there is more to them. Now, all this talk about this trailer having so many inconsistencies doesn't mean that it is bad. It just stands out that there are quite a few more compared to previous trailers. Which means, yes, I will now also show some previous mistakes that made it into the final trailers. Just to prove they are also not without flaw. So if you don't want to always be remembered about these errors, better jump to the end or stop watching now, and thank you already that you made it this far. Then the first three trailers, 1.0, A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, are pretty much perfect in the regard of errors. Unless you count the places and scenarios that are being shown in there and that are not actually existent in the gameplay as an error, they are in the clear. Only a little detail I would point out is the redundancy of showing the title Heavensward before showing the Heavensward logo, but I can live with that. Then we have Stormblood. This one almost got a pass too, before I noticed a render error at the end. Or maybe it was an optimization decision on the render time that they thought no one would notice. Sadly I did, and now I cannot unsee it. Now after the reveal of the samurai, when we follow the eagle up to Yugiri and Gosetsu, we clearly see that there are dozens of people moving around on all the bridges. However, once the camera pans around and shows the town again from the other side, the bridges are suspiciously empty. Everybody suddenly vanished. Does this matter? No, but it seems slightly weird. Now next I'll first go to Endwalker and keep the, I think, biggest mistake, which is in Shadowbringers, for the end. Now in terms of transitions from one scene to the next, Endwalker is remarkable, and one of the best transitions is the one from Graha Tia to Fortunal. But what comes after seems to be a remnant from a different version of the trailer that didn't make the cut. And no, I don't talk about her clearly standing in front of the tables, and when she walks away dramatically at the end, she should be bumping into those tables. No, I mean, we get a tilt up on Ishtola walking over the screen, And if you look closely at her lips, she is already moving them. Her speech, however, doesn't start until she has already left the screen again. Just to be sure, I checked the other language versions too, Japanese, French, German and even the Korean version, and in none of them does she say anything while her mouth is moving already. She clearly starts after she is out of frame. It's a tiny mistake, but sadly I caught it and now I cannot unsee it, neither can you. And now, last but not least, there's Shadowbringers. At first I wanted to point out the weird transition at the end as the Warrior of Light cuts the clouds, and in the next scene there's suddenly the Crystal Tower also visible. That one might again be a memory or a render time constraint, and that is totally fine with me. No, what I want to show you is something that slipped in between the extended trailer and the full trailer. We see the standoff between the Warrior of Light and Elidibus in Xenos' body. Did you notice it? And I'm not talking about the clouds only moving on every second frame for a short time, though that's also weird. No, I mean there is this one frame in there, right here, showing the letters N and S, as well as a border or a box at the lower screen. It's one frame and it happens so fast, unless you search for it, you won't be able to see it. But it's there. It's even still there in the Korean version that was actually enhanced and released about a year later. Feel free to go to the YouTube page from Final Fantasy XIV and check it out yourself, it's there. So then, even older trailers are not without flaws. Though be it with far fewer than the newest Dawntrail trailer. What does this mean, ultimately? I don't know. Will we get to see an extended version at some point in the future? Only time will tell. But I personally do believe we have not seen everything yet. However, history showed that I am mostly wrong with all my predictions. So yeah, we will see. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you make of all of this.